Okay, well now we come to the important part of the proceedings. And that's not me talking, that's going to be Robin following me. And so the speaker we have for the Thompson lecture, which I thought was a very imaginative title, I'm not sure who was responsible for it, is Robin Thompson, who is nearly a Doctor Honoris Causa of this university, or Edinburgh University. And I'm not sure what the topic is, but let's call it Robin Thompson. What do I press? A little bit.
This is what you want for the slides.
Yeah,
slides.
on that one, okay.
Press the arrow.
Fine.
The arrow.
Right. I wander around, that's the trouble. So it's a long time since Robin, I've known Robin a very long time. He came to Edinburgh about just over 45 years ago, and I first met up with him when he was in Uptown, in the Buccleuch Place, in then the Finney's group in statistics, and also in the bioinformatics, well, not bioinformatics group, but it wasn't so cool. And I met them sort of via David Finney, who was professor of statistics, and also Maurice Bichard, who knew Robin from before. And actually, just shortly after this period, Robin spent a year with Kempthorne in Iowa State University, which is certainly a contrast from Edinburgh if anybody's ever been there. I don't recommend it particularly as a place to live, but it was actually quite useful for him. But I sort of remember in those days that I was there for a few months with my wife, and we entertained him one night, but we were in rather poor circumstances. I remember he had to come and bring his own knife and fork, but anyway, he came nevertheless. Now I want to sort of say things which I've had done with him. There's it's been referred to already, this paper on SAR evaluation, which was published in 1979, and it's a very clear exposition of a topic which was then evolving quite rapidly. And we've worked together on various things, non-positive definite matrices and covariance functions. I've learned quite a lot from Robin, not least on some of these, and the non-positive definite matrices may sound like a sort of trivial and simple thing, and nowadays it is. But what was quite striking, we were just looking at an ANOVA sort of model, was the fact that when you got more and more and more traits in the situation, it became an inevitability. It wasn't something that happened from time to time. Now, obviously, there are ways around this, which one does nowadays, but it was an interesting finding in itself, and a sort of surprise, I think, to people. And then, obviously, much involvement with the analysis of livestock and lab animal data, and some of those, we had lab animals and mice, these were, and lots of students who were using these for projects. Robin also, of course, taught a lot on the MSc courses. He's never paid for it, but that's the way the university works. And that was actually very helpful to us. And co-supervised a large number of research students, some of whom have already talked today. And that was, again, a major contribution to what went on in Edinburgh. We actually did some things together, I mentioned a few of them. I apologize a bit about the numbers, and I say at least. I'm not quite sure how many joint postgraduate students we actually had. The records are not very clear. If you go back a few years, things are a bit vaguer than they are nowadays. Exactly who was the supervisor of who was responsible for who. I mean, my supervisor was Alan Robertson, but it wasn't actually, it was Waddington, who hadn't the slightest idea what I did at all. And and we had quite a few postgraduates. Some of them are quite well known and have spoken here already, have become quite important. We did at least 16 co-authored papers, and the comment there is some quite good. So they varied a lot in utility, from the abstruse to the sometimes quite useful. Another contribution which he made to us in Edinburgh was on the Fourth World Congress on Genetics Applied to Livestock Production in 1990. He was on the organising committee, but also with John Williams and myself, co-edited all the proceedings of the whole thing. And you've got to bear in mind, if you've ever seen it, it's quite thick, or several bits of it. And this is in the days before computer technology was quite where it is now, and it was a little harder to set things up. So this is important. I think I should now just make a very brief sort of statement. If you actually think about what the University of Edinburgh, in some senses, if you like, I mean, Roslin is now part of the University of Edinburgh, but it didn't used to be, that a great deal of the cost-free, high-quality and deep tuition and advice to many postgraduates sounds a bit grand, and that's not really quite how Robin is, personally. But this actually was been extremely important for the university and the postgraduate teaching here, particularly the impact which Robin had when he was up here. And it also has a sort of reflected glory on the university. The mere presence and the fact that he was interacting with people actually had a big impact on our recruitment, had a big impact on understanding of the whole lot. And so I say the DHC is at least sort of some recognition of the university's, I can't speak for the University of Type, but I know it's involved, the university's respect for what he has done. This is, well, it's a trailer in a funny sort of way. I'm not sure how aware people are of this, but there was a collection of interviews recorded by Ron Lewis, who used to be in Edinburgh, he's actually shifted now in Nebraska, and there's a full set of interviews which are archived. There's no way you're going to write it down, but we can give it. If you ask me, I'll give you the thing. There's an interview of Robin by me, of all people, and if you want to listen to Robin chatting about his background and about what interested him and such like, then you may wish to listen to it. It took place about 8 or 10 years ago, the interview in our lounge, and I think it's quite informative. It was sort of, it was scheduled for an hour, but I think we ran out of gas after 3/4 of an hour, so I wouldn't bother to listen to the tail end of it. We were going round the houses a bit again, but it's a nice piece of history, which I know he hasn't got enough time to talk about now. So now I want to introduce a lecture, and it's very strange. I've never sort of heard of a lecture, the person's name being given by the person. So I'm not sure quite how to interpret this, but perhaps we should call this the inaugural Thompson lecture, and somebody like in your institution here, I could cough up money and have one every other year. Every year, I mean, which is not got the Robin actually talking at it. But anyway, so we may regard this as the Thompson lecture or the inaugural Thompson lecture. That is a matter for the others. But anyway, I'm happy to introduce our star of today, and wish him also well for tomorrow. Robin.